back to the Abruzzi ANZCAR Cup here at the iconic and classic track of the Daytona International Speedway. Yes, we are on the banks of Daytona once again in the ANZCAR Cup. And the final time before we get into the chase, I am Carl and I'm back with you finally after some technical difficulties. And joining me tonight in the booth is JP. How you going, JP?
Really well there, thanks, Carl. Great to see you back after a couple of weeks absence. Disappointing about your technical issues, but it's great to see that you've got those sorted.
It's nice to have everything back working, and we've just got JCW out on track for the qualifying run at the moment as we qualify for this race. JCW one of the first across the line at the moment, so we'll see how his laps go. Obviously, first lap is sometimes a bit of a write-off here in qualifying, but that second lap is definitely the one to look out for as we jump to Adam Roswell as well. So definitely that second lap is where the speed comes. He's doing some good numbers in the first sector. Adam, he set some okay times for the time being as he goes across the line. We'll see whereabouts he sets up, and that's right on the top of the board. Great lap from Adam Rosell. Really nice job there to get up at the top of the timing boards. So we're looking across all the little bits and bobs as they go through there. So a few people are starting to get some good times. Aiden Schultz is just setting in some good times for Ray Yeager. But Ray Yeager's having a good purple at the moment. Let's see how this does for the number 2 Monster Energy car. Of course, Daytona is a very tricky track and it's going to rely on drafting, so sometimes starting right at the very front can be a bit of a curse. Yeager crosses the line, and that gets him up into first place. Brilliant lap from Raymond Yeager.
Look at this.
Lachlan has got up there, as well as Edward Foster. Edward Foster getting a great lap out there. Phil Otto is also looking to set some okay times. He's getting a purple in the final sectors. We've got times coming up, across the first sector. He's got into 5th position with that one. Nice job there. Just looking across the board, we've got some flying laps coming out there. Foster setting a fantastic pace there, though. Absolutely great job, just nipping his teammates in the bud there. It's a JP Simshed 1, 2, 3 at the moment. We've yet to see some of the Mitch Motorsport cars. We've got Jason Martin out on the track at the moment, so we'll see how he goes as Jason Martin is coming around to start setting his fast laps. And we know that the Mitch Motorsport boys usually do well in qualifying, so it'll be interesting to see how they do with this bit of lockout from the front row from the JP Simshed team. As Martin crosses the line, only in 14th for Martin, so very far down for Martin. Not the greatest lap for him. Just seeing who else is out there at the moment. We've got Danny G here at the moment. Again, he's just easing the car in, and see how that goes up into 10th place for him. So again, a little bit lower down the field than we're used to seeing for those guys. At the moment, we've also got timing screens. Not many people out there on a fast one now, so a lot of people that set their times. Got Riley Curtis just pootling around, I think, after setting a lap. So Riley Curtis down there in 24th at the moment. The last of the guys to set a time is Brendan Bartlett at the moment. So there's a few drivers that haven't gone out yet, including Hamish Gallagher, Josh Micklemore, people like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they do try and get a lap in, but they are running out of time very, very quickly. So I don't think we're going to see any more cars out there. So I think we got our grid set for tonight's race, and it looks like Foster's put it on pole.
That's pretty good going from Foster and the team from JP Simshed there. A front row lockout by Foster and Urquio.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant job. Very good job as well. Jason Hartigan up in 3rd as well. So we got Foster, Lachlan, Jason Hartigan, Bradley Allison on the first couple of rows. On the 3rd row, we've got Phil Otto and Michael Skurlock. 4th row is Stephen Williams with Raymond Yeager. 5th row is Norman Clark, Danny G. 6th row is James Roby with Logan Rettemeyer. 7th row is Joshua Carroll Walden with Adam Roswell. 8th row of Jason Martin, Aiden Schultz. 9th is Devon Stone for Nick Wilson. 10th, I think. 10th row of Mako Dornak with Stuart Pedersen. 11th is Tristan Koch, Kai Sloggett. 12th, Bill Hickey, Riley Curtis. 13th, Brendan Bartlett with Josh Micklemore. 14th, Hamish Gallagher, Jackson Berry. 15th, Matt Hunter and Darren Bumfield. And at the back, we've got Michael Shaw heading up. So big field out there tonight as well. Quite a few cars.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. 90 laps here at Daytona, so should be some really exciting racing.
Always is at Daytona. It can be a bit of a crapshoot sometimes. It is sometimes down to luck on how you will go out there, because it can be a very difficult track to get things going your way in luck circumstances, because the big one is always a few moments away here. Before we do get started, though, I'm just going to go over the top 10 in the championship standings. So at the moment, we've got Michael Skurlock up in first with with Josh Micklemore there in second. Edward Foster third with Jason Martin fourth. 5th is Danny G with Hamish Gallagher in 6th. 7th is Norman Clark with 8th Jason Martin. 9th is Stephen Williams with 10th is Ray Yeager. Of course, these will change a little bit when drop rounds come into the equation, but good job so far for all those guys, doing a very good job out there. And of course, that's going to be leading us into the chase, which will be coming up in not too many rounds' time now.
Yeah, that should be some really interesting racing there.
Yeah, looking forward to that coming in. It's going to be exciting to have that coming in. We've only got, this is the last race before the chase, because we've got Darlington coming up next. So we're going to get ready, getting across the line. We're going to be going green here very shortly. And the drivers are just going to be following the pace car out. Foster on that front row at the moment. He's going to be pretty happy about that. But as I say, sometimes front row can be a bit of a double-edged sword here, because everybody behind you gets a fantastic draft. But with a couple of his teammates around, that could be very useful right now. They could try and get a break for it and maybe make a little bit of a gap for themselves. The Mitch Motorsport team are going to be suffering because they've got cars spread all throughout the field at the moment. So that might make it hard for those guys.
Yeah, and I know the guys from JP Simpson have really been coming off a bit of a high. They've been enjoying quite a few wins and some top placings in the ANZCAR series in different series.
Yeah, Foster coming off a win last night in the Grand National Series, but we're going to get ready. Pace car is in, and the green is out, and away they go. Foster gets a good start there. A few cars getting a little bit caught up in the back of the pack. But Foster's got away cleanly. Everybody looks to be driving away okay. Some real couple love taps and bumps as they go across the line. But now it's going to become the hard part. Now's the part you have to just get friendly and get settled and start going. Erkio's got a little bit out of shape and he's dropped back a bit. He's dropped quite far back as well on that outside line. Not working. You've got Hanskin giving Foster a push. And on the outside we've got... Where are we? We've got Stephen Williams there. Stephen Williams getting a nice push from his teammate there behind him. So Stephen Williams and Bradley Allison, I believe, there, with Phil Otto in the midst there. So getting great pass. And that's got Phil Otto actually out in front at the moment. So he's gotten into the lead. Stephen Williams still getting a good push. Foster and Hanskin have just broken up a little bit from the bump draft. You don't want to do that too quickly because the engine can overheat.
Yeah, it looks like that high line is a slightly quicker line at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit slow off the start there. Lachlan just dropped back quite a bit at the start, but that high line is definitely starting to work. You can see him catching now. There's cars out in there. It's giving him a draft. It's sucking him along. We've got Jason Martin as well coming up quite quickly. So good positioning there for them. The cars at the front now dropped down though, and that's going to start affecting that top line. You're going to see them hemorrhaging time now and dropping back. You can see that Lachlan's starting to lose speed and there's nowhere to go for them at the moment. Michael Skurlock might try and think about making a little bit of a move, try and get in behind Norman Clark, but there's not much between him and James Robbie at the moment.
Yeah, a really nice clean start to the race here. Great to see, and great to see these cars forming up.
Yes, getting the pack racing happening, and this is where the hard part starts for these guys. because it gets very tricky racing in a pack like this. You're racing so very close to each other. You're nose to bumper, as you can see, at over 200 miles per hour.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of skill that's involved in being able to do that and being able to keep the pace, and I guess be able to keep those lines the way they're running them.
Very much so. You can see if we drop down to Michael Skurlock and Lachlan a little bit further down the field, you can see they're struggling a bit and they are starting to drop back a little bit. You can see Skurlock is struggling there. The cars are all over the place with him, Jaeger, Martin, and Danny G behind them. And the cars are just leaping across the track. You can see they're having a struggle in the straight line. And that's not just them trying to get some air on the front of the car to try and cool it down a little bit. The problem is, when you're driving along like this, you lose front aero. Despite not being that dependent on our cars. Oh, and we've got a moment in the little bit low down with Aiden Schultz. A couple of cars there. Having a bit of a check-up. Trying to work out who it was. I think it was... trying to see who was involved in that. I think Stuart Pedersen got involved. And... trying to see who got involved in that one. We've remained green, though. Got a big moment in the mid-pack there. So
Yeah, great.
a lot of cars getting broken up from the main pack there.
Great to see them. They're able to maintain their line and stay green for the race.
Yeah, that was great saving done there by those guys. They did a brilliant job of getting the car back on track there, because that can be very tricky. As we say, these cars are doing, a good 3 something or other in kilometres. I still work in miles, unfortunately. You have to forgive me for that, I'm old. But great save there, and it's not easy to do in these cars. I think it was Devon Stove that started that moment there, just a little bit further back. But yeah, great saving there by those guys. Probably a little bit of damage on a couple of those cars, as they did just nick each other, and that's going to be problematic for this race, because aero is king on a track like this.
Yeah, 100%. And Stephen Williams looks fairly comfortable. Bradley Allison's right there behind him, though, bump drafting him. But it doesn't seem to be bothering Steve at all.
No, well, I imagine Stephen Williams is going to be quite happy about that little bit of bump drafting, just get him out in front of a little bit further. It's going to give him a little bit more speed down there. But Bradley Allison just has to watch out, because doing that, you can overheat the car quite quickly. Of course, you need air in the engine, and you need cool air in the engine. It can sometimes cause trouble. Just a little bit further back, got Joshua Carroll-Walden leading a bit of a charge now on the outside line. Lachlan's dropped back the order a little bit. Now, Danny G has got into... Danny G has got into the front there. And he's doing a great charge down the outside, with Michael Skurlock pushing him. Rain Jaeger there as well. Jason Martin in that too. So they're starting to charge up the order now. They've just got past Norman Clark. They're coming up beside Jason Hartigan now. So they're starting to work their way up the top 5. So watch out for that top line to start catching back up.
Yeah, it looks like we're harking back to last week where Danny G had a great run and started carving his way through the field. He's a lot further up the field, so a lot closer to the pointy end. But this is absolutely fantastic.
And Phil Otto's just noticed what's happening there, and he's just licked his lips and just gone up in front of Danny G just to get at the front of that train, because that train is moving very fast at the moment. They're nose to tail all the way down there into car number 126 of Bill Hickey. Nose to tail, they're getting some great bump drafting, and that's going to start pushing Phil Otto along. The trouble is now they might have just lifted off a little bit as Phil Otto came up, and could have just lost a little bit of speed there, so might need to take a couple of laps to get the momentum moving again before they can start pushing him along. But a good job there by the team, just getting up there and actually getting into a point to sort of slow down that charge from the other guys.
Yeah, he's moved up there and said, I'll have some of that, and that's probably where he wants to be at the moment.
Yeah, the DPR team are working very well at the moment. They're doing some great moves, and they've basically locked out the front of the track for themselves. So starting a little bit further down the order, this paid off great for them. Stephen Williams starting 7th, Phil Otto in 5th. And as I said, sometimes getting a pole position at Daytona is a bit of a curse. Foster's sitting well at the moment in third place, but it does make it pretty tricky sometimes.
Yeah, and it's great to see the guys from DPR up the front of the field. They haven't had a lot of luck, but yeah, they're looking good at the moment. And long way to go though. But yeah, these guys at the front are looking good.
Yeah, we're only on lap 10 at the moment, so still a long way to go here. We've got 90 laps of this race, and it is a long, grueling race as well, especially if you get long green flag periods. Just looking back the field a little bit, down in 22nd, we've got a little a little pack forming to try and catch up. Riley Curtis in the lead of that, with Josh Micklemore down there in 23rd position. Not often we see Micklemore that far down, but he's down there with Hamish Gallagher as well, another one of the drivers that's quite fast on these tracks. They're trying to start catching up now. Right at the back, you've got Mirko Dortnak and Stuart Pedersen just trying to start drafting with each other to catch up to that pack. But there's a long way to go for those guys to get there.
Yeah, it's a little bit unusual seeing these guys so far back, but I almost get the impression that maybe they're running to a plan, but don't really know what that plan could be, being so far down the order.
I think a lot of that was to do with that incident a bit earlier on, because a lot of cars got caught out when the car did go around. I think it possibly was Devon Stove just losing the back end, and that really caught a few cars out, dropped them out of position, and caused the sort of back of the pack to slow down, and they fell off. Oh, and into the wall. We've got a car just tapping
That looked like
there.
Raymond Yeager. I'm not sure though.
I think it was Bill Hickey actually on that one. Similar coloured cars there. Bill Hickey in the 126 there, going into the wall, just scraping the side of the wall on his car. Not much damage on there, but there will be a little bit of damage on the front aero of that car, so that could start causing problems for that top line now. So everybody behind him could start falling back a bit, and you can see that they are indeed.
So this is something interesting that I've noticed. I'm noticing the cars weaving around a little bit, maybe to get some clean air, don't know. But you look at Foster there, he seems to be holding his car nice and straight. Is he conserving his tyres and waiting for a moment where he can just take off?
Tyres aren't too much of an issue here. In all honesty, you're not going to be too concerned with the tyres on a track like Daytona. Although there's some serious high speeds, these corners don't cause too much damage to the tyres. It's not like Dover or Bristol, places like that, where it really does start to make a difference. But he could be just trying to conserve fuel. The other thing as well about sort of wobbling all across the track is it does leave you open to more incidents. You know, you do open yourself up to possibly losing the back end of the car. You can struggle a little bit. What I'd say that's happening in Foster's case is he's just got a really good line there. He's just found a good spot that's not being too much aero wash. Because that's one of the other things that can cause it, is when you're following the tracks of these cars, you get a lot of aero wash coming off the car, and that can cause the car just to sway a little bit left and right. So the few things that can cause it, but generally it's usually down to heat management. When you're dropping out of position, when you're moving out of the draft from the car behind, you just want to get a bit of cool air on the engine. So maybe Foster's just getting a bit better. He's maybe finding it's not needing as much cooling as some other drivers. That could be because he's not pushing as hard. Maybe he's lifting and coasting a little bit more than others. Of course, you can lift a bit in the draft as well. You're not running the engine to its full power.
Yeah, there you go. And I notice we're seeing...
We've got a car that's gone round. Just trying to figure out what happened there.
No, we're just seeing Norman Clark just get on the back of Jason Hardigan there. So now we've got 3 JP Simshed cars in the mix there. So that's going to help these guys. And just heard from Trev Micklemore. Thanks for the heads up, Trev. Josh's internet dropped out during qualifying. That's why he was so far down the order.
Oh, that definitely would have caused some problems there for him. Not good indeed, but good to see him getting back up there at least. Now it's going to be one heck of a recovery drive from him.
Absolutely, but if there's anyone that can do it, there's certainly Josh is the man.
That's it. So Devon Stove looks to have had a big incident big incident a lap or two ago. Quite a bit of damage on the car. Just going to see if I can figure out what's actually happened there, because I did see a car on the infield quite banged up, going very slow. It looks like it's Devon Stove that's had that happen. Just gone off through turn 4, actually down the straight, Mick Wilson it was, Mick Wilson just getting a little nudge by another car. It's just caused him to go up, and he's managed to save the car pretty well. We didn't get a caution coming out though, so that's good news, because up the front we got one heck of a battle. The DPR cars are still leading both sides of that drafting line. We've got Stephen Williams out in the lead, and Phil Otto out in the second lead of the car.
And Bradley Allison's just sitting there. Looks like he's happy to sit in the draft there, conserve fuel, and buy his time before he pounces.
Yeah, he's sitting there. He does look like he's thinking about going up to that top line at some stages. But at the moment, he's pretty happy in his position where he's at. So he's just sitting there, keeping his head down, keeping things relatively smooth, not working the car too much, getting a little bit of air on that engine just so he doesn't overheat. But he's helping out Stephen Williams here, because he's given him a bit of a block between the two JP Simshed cars of Foster, three JP Simshed cars there of Foster, Hartigan and Norman Clark now.
And it almost looks like the lower line is starting to come to these drivers.
As we go around a slightly slow car, Mick Wilson there just going around, and that's one of the things that can cause trouble, as we see one of the cars in that group, the 293 there, I believe, just going into the wall. That's Adam Rosell, so going into the wall there, getting a moment up there and just getting a little bit of damage on that car as well. And it's very easy to make a mistake when you're going past a lapped car, because you do have to go 3 wide, and it's very scary.
Oh my goodness. And we've seen it.
Caution, yellow flag.
And that's brought out the caution.
Brought out the caution, and Braden Bartlett's gone round as well with that one. He's gone round as one of the cars in front of him just started to go around. So
we kind of saw Billy Hickey start to get into trouble well before that incident. Matter of fact, I'm just going to go backwards and see if I can find. Here we go. And he's just gotten out of shape there, and he's tried to catch it, gone high, and that's where it all went pear-shaped for him.
Yeah, it went very bad there, and there was almost a secondary incident, because you can see that as it's happening, the 56 just basically left off of Brennan Bartlett, and that caused Lachlan, I think it was, to go into the back of him. I'm just trying to look through there. So Lachlan got a bit of damage on the front end of the car from that. So he's got some damage now on the front of that car from that little bit of a tap there. So that's brought out our first caution flag of the night. So big instant there. We're probably going to see everybody darting into the pit lane now. Top up those fuel tanks for fuel, because that's the big part of this kind of race is fuel. These guys will start to be, they'll be running on about quarter to maybe about just under half a tank now. So they'll fill it all up, get some more fuel in there, and go another 30 odd laps.
So with this track not affecting tyres that much, they'll most likely not change tyres, Carl?
We might see them change one set. We'll probably see people changing a couple of tyres just to be safe. There might be a couple that don't change them all, that just go for fuel. We'll soon see how that works out, though, as they all come flying out of pit road. And I think...
Look at this. Jason Martin and Danny G really did well out of that.
Yeah, those are the guys that only changed one set of tyres, I believe. So they just changed... I'm just going to have a bit of a closer look on those guys, seeing if they did actually change tyres. So actually, they didn't change tyres at all. So Jason Martin just got fuel on that run. So He's only got fuel.
And you can see sorry, you can see by the timing there, Phil Otto 11.2, Allison 11.4, Martin was an 8.8, Danny G 11.5, Williams a 14.8, and Foster a 14.8 as well.
Big different makers. Obviously, when you change tyres, it takes longer because these tyre stops aren't like your Formula One pit stops where they're just done in a couple of seconds. You only have a couple of guys. It takes a long time to get those tyres on and off. You lose a fair bit of time in those stops. So we saw a few people just taking one set of tyres, a few people just taking no tyres, and a few people changing all 4 tyres. So it's hard to say at the moment who has got the best idea. Obviously, tyre drop-off isn't as big a thing on this kind of racetrack at Daytona, but fresher tyres are always nicer than slightly older tyres. So it could be a slight benefit them in the restart. But if you get caught up in a drafting squad and you get sort of stuck in the middle, you don't always have places to go. So sometimes not having those freshest tyres, it doesn't make that much difference.
Yeah, and the guys that have taken the fresher tyres, they're further down the order now. I think Foster took a full set of tyres. He's sitting in 6th now. So for that to be of any gain for him or any benefit at all, he's really going to have to try and make a move fairly early on in the restart.
He is, but I think one of the things that's important for Foster at the moment is he's got Hartigan and Norman Clark with him. So those guys have got a nice little teammate advantage for them. And I think Joshua Carroll-Walden's actually sitting just behind Clark now as well. So yeah, all of those JP Simshed cars have gotten together. Are looking a bit further down the order. Well, looking slightly up the order actually, because we've got Kai Sloggett next to Joshua Carroll-Walden. He's made it up to 10th place, starting in 22nd place. He made a huge leap over those guys. And then in 16th place, we've got Josh Mickelmore, and he's working his way up the field now. So despite missing qualifying, he's got himself up, got himself up 10 positions now. Worked his way up into the middle of that pack now, and this is the saving grace for him at the moment for this race. So despite that internet dropping off, it's helped him out to get in that position. You just have to be careful though, because driving in that mid-pack can be very dangerous. Michael Skurlock's dropped down to 13th position. So pace car is coming in. Phil Otto's going to lead us away, and we're going to get back to racing here at Daytona. Phil Otto getting a great start there. You've got Jason Martin sitting there in 2nd now, getting a little bit of a push from Stephen Williams. So working out where Bradley Allison has not really got anyone to work with at the moment, and he lost a lot of time in that restart. Phil Otto went off a little bit earlier than the rest of them, and that dropped down that second line a bit. The cars start to spread out a little bit from 17th down as people just were a bit caught out by that restart, didn't get on the throttle early enough, and they got caught out a little bit there. Phil Otto, though, got a fantastic restart there. He put the power down just at the right time, caught Bradley Allison napping. Of course, it's the leader's choice to when to accelerate once the pace car's gone in and once the flag is dropped. So Otto just getting a great advantage there, and that's also helped Stephen Williams as well, because he's sitting just behind Jason Martin. Foster now has a great pack of teammates behind him. He's got 3 teammates sitting behind him, or Hartigan, Clark, and Joshua Carroll-Walden. Out on the outside line though, they're starting to push along again. Danny G's pushing along Bradley Allison. Bradley Allison getting a nice run here, and that outside line is starting to get a good push once more. Another person just to look out for that's come up very quickly is Hamish Gallagher, sitting there in 12th place. You can see him just next to Norman Clark at the moment, but Hamish Gallagher took advantage of that pit stop. It worked out very well. Josh Mickelmore's just sitting on the back of the tail at the moment with Michael Skurlock, so those guys are going to start working their way up the field soon.
Yeah, this is really interesting stuff here, this restart, and it kind of looks like it ebbs and flows. That high line looks like it's getting fast, and then it sort of falls back a little bit.
Yes, it's working well at some stages. I think depending on who's out there, how it's working. And Jason Martin just pushing Phil Otto along at the moment, right on his bumper. But I think that the outside line is just getting a little bit looser occasionally, so they're just having to lift off occasionally just to sort of check up and just to make the car nice and settled once again, and that loses them a little bit of time. But once they get actually working. Once the car actually gets speed, they tend to work well. It tends to get a lot of good runoff with the corners, that outside line. It loses a bit of time in the entry, but it gets a good runoff from the exit.
Yeah, fantastic. And a little bit of a tip here from Roger Clark. You can get away with just rights or lefts in a stop here. You can get away with 2 stints gas-wise, so 60 to 80 laps. You only need boots when you have a moment. So thanks very much, Roger. Great to see these guys watching the broadcasts and giving us their thoughts on what's going on.
Yeah, nice to see you around, Roger. It's good to see you, and we'll hopefully see you out on track at some stage soon as well. Always fun to race against you, if not a little bit scary. Jason Martin just sitting behind him, also at the moment, doing a good job. And that outside line's just dropping off again, dropping pace again, just dropping back down again a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, it just looked like at the beginning of the race, or at the restart there, it was nice and fast, but now it just seems to be dropping off.
And we've got a little bit of action mid-pack as Josh Mickelmore just had to ease off a little bit, just as somebody started to lose a little bit of grip up in front of him. So he's just eased off a little bit, and that made the car behind him, I think it was Aiden Schultz behind him, just have to ease off a bit too. So that backpack is starting to fall away a bit from the leaders again.
Yeah, it's a bit of interesting running at the back there, watching these guys. Seems that Josh is being a little bit hamstrung there. He's not being able to move as fast as he wants to, but like we said before, still early days, still a lot of laps to go.
That's it, we're only on lap 28 at the moment, so still a long way to go in this race.
And we've seen it so many times where the Josh Mickelmores and Michael Skurlocks, they come from seemingly nowhere to win the race or to wind up on the podium.
That's it. They bide their time in a lot of these races, and it does usually pay off quite well for them. Just letting the car ease off a little bit, not pushing it too hard too early, and it can work out quite well for you. And you can see now Josh Mickelmore actually starting to catch up to those guys once again. He's now running the outside line with Stuart Pedersen, who made a little light tap on the back of Josh Mickelmore, and they had to check up a little bit. But he's getting some good pace at the moment. He's got a good side draft on Skurlock, and that's bringing him along a little bit onto the back. Getting nice onto the back of the drivers in front. Adam Rosell is just getting a little bit close to a couple of drivers as well. He's sort of running very close. He's trying to make a move into the group between Skurlock and James Robbie at the moment, and it's not working for him.
Yeah, this is looks like it's one of these. It's going to be one of these races where it's going to be very difficult to make places. These guys are just running line astern, I'd say, buying their time and staying with each other until closer to the end, where they're going to really open it up.
That's it. Just waiting until that last moment. You only have to lead one lap in a race, and that's the last lap, of course. That's the important one to lead. At the moment, though, Phil Otto is doing a great job of leading. He's still out in front. He's got back out there again, with Jason Martin just behind him. His teammate Stephen Williams third in the line there, not in positions, because third we've got Bradley Allison, Danny G there as well. So that top line is starting to move along a bit, starting to chug along a little bit too. And you can see now, in the same picture, you can see all of the Mitch Motorsport cars, because you've got Martin, Danny G and Mickelmore starting to work their way up there. If those three can actually get connected, it could be quite tricky for some others to catch them. So teammates are important on an oval like this. It does make a big difference.
And that just heralds to the quality of racing from these guys from Mitch Motorsport. They're always there or thereabouts, and they can always find their way to each other and start racing together.
It's almost like they've got magnets strapped to the back of their cars, pull each other along a little bit. But yeah, they always manage to work out a good position for themselves, and they're doing a good job tonight, considering the spread they had at the start of the race. They were all in different spots at the start of this race, and now they're only a few cars apart. Also, just mention the great job that the JP Simshed team's doing with Foster at the moment, leading that. They're all working together nicely. They've just got a nice group of cars at the moment out the front of the grid, working very well with each other. DPR, of course, doing a fantastic job to block off the front 2 rows of this race early on when we had that green period, and still leading this race in Phil Otto. Stephen Williams there in 3rd as well. So again, teams are working very well with each other. It can be very tricky to be an independent out there.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, the guys in JP Simshed are looking really good there. They've got 4 out of their 5 cars working together.
That's it. They're working together very well at the moment. The other JP Simshed car, and that's Lachlan, and he's down there in 27th. He's lost quite a few positions, unfortunately, but he's got a lot of damage on the front of that car, and that's going to be slowing him down an enormous amount. So he's going to be having a bit of a torrid night at the moment, so it's not going to go too well. He's just racing with Devon Stove there in 26th and 27th. So going to be a very tricky night for him to start getting back. But of course, anything can happen at Daytona. We could have one of those fantastic multi-car pile-ups that you often do see, and it could turn out to be lucky for that guy that's running a few seconds off the back of everybody, because he could avoid all the wrecks and end up winning. You never know what's going to happen here until the last lap. Well, until the end of the last lap, sorry.
Yeah, 100%. And Lachlan's just been the victim of being in the wrong place at the wrong time at a few rounds here. And he's shown a lot of promise, but just hasn't had that little bit of extra luck that you sometimes need to put it all together and have a podium finish.
That's it. Just looking through the field, a couple of other drivers. We've got Logan Rottenmeier running down in 20th. Good job for one of the newer drivers in the series. Adam Rosell and was running quite well in 16th, and Aiden Schultz in 12th place as well. Aiden Schultz has been turned up to a few events. Good to see, and been making some good pace as well. So some slightly newer drivers coming into the series, which is always nice to see, what we like seeing, and they're doing very well at the moment. But jumping back to the front of the pack, we've got Bradley Allison starting to get a good run on the outside again, just trying to get back there for 1st place, pushing his way up there with the help of Danny G, Raymond Yeager, and Kai Slogger as well. Josh Micklemore there, and then the list, and Aiden Schultz, there as well. So quite a few cars doing very well at the moment, just getting into some good positions, getting into some good places, and just at the moment that outside line is still a bit slower, but it is still there. So that's the main thing. It's only 3 cars behind the lead. So if they get a good run out of a corner and the bottom line has to lift or anything like that, they'll start flying ahead.
Yeah, 100%. And you can see all the cars on the bottom line. They're laying down that rubber. You would sort of think that as the race progresses, that line might start getting slower.
Yes. It sort of can have that little bit of effect sometimes. So we can throw things out a little bit, throw the balance out a little bit, and it's never easy running this close to each other. But at the moment, you can just see that outside line's just got a good run now, and that bottom line's not got quite as decent run out of that corner. So you can see Allison just getting a good push here. This might be enough to get him there or thereabouts. They might be able to start thrusting their way forward to the front.
Yeah, it does seem that high line is getting a better run onto the straights than the lower line.
Yes, indeed. It has its moments where it seems to just really get a burst of speed and then it drops off again. So that outside line, it can work very well, but it's very, very finicky, you would say. It's not the easiest line to run. And at the moment, Bradley Allison's got a lot of experience out there. He's been running it for quite a long time. And that can be useful because the longer you run a line, the easier you'll find it, because you can just find your pace, you can get into a rhythm, and everything eventually just starts working for you.
Yeah, and that looks exactly like what's happening with Bradley there. He's just he seems quite comfortable on that outside line.
It does, and it can only take a moment, but all it takes is one person to decide, I'm going to go on the outside line up the front, and that can disturb everybody. That can sort of cause an issue there. So sometimes you see a driver just deciding, I've had enough of following this guy in front of me, I want to try and push ahead, and they'll jump to the outside line, and sometimes that can disturb it a little bit, cause it to drop off, and just changes the rhythm of it, because you've not got the same cars behind you, you've not got the same car in front of you, and it takes a little bit of a while to build up that confidence. But so far, we've not seen that too much tonight. Up front still, we've got Phil, Otto, Martin and Williams, and I've got to say, DPR are doing a great job of managing the pace of the lower line at the moment.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job. And like you said, we haven't seen too many people switching from the lower line to the high line or vice versa tonight.
We haven't. Raymond Yeager just having a bit of a moment going through turn number 2, I think it was. Just getting up close to the wall, and that's going to drop that high line off again. You're going to see them just dropping back now as they lost a car in the middle for a moment. They have to slow down and start checking up with each other. So they're going to start dropping back again now and losing that speed. And this could be the advantage somebody down on that lower line uses to try and get up there. So we'll see now what they can do. This could be the moment where you see some of the JP Simshed cars try and actually get up there if that high line drops back a bit further.
Well, it almost looks like they can get 3 of their cars up onto that high line at this stage. But they might be playing it patient. They might be happy where they are as well.
So sometimes it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't. They've been having a good run down there at the moment. Everything's going fine. The cars are sitting evenly. That high line's now got its work, got everything back in order. All the cars are in their same positions again, and they're starting to push forwards again. And that's closed the gap for Foster, Hartigan, Clark, and Joshua Carroll-Walden to get up there. And just sitting behind them is James Robbie as well. He's doing a good job just sitting there, nice and easily, not pushing too hard. He's just biding his time. Same can be said for Michael Skurlock as well. He's just sitting back there a bit further, but he's just waiting to see what happens. He's not working too hard, not pushing too hard, just seeing what happens in this race as we hit lap number 42. So having a little bit of further back in the pack at the moment, we've got Logan Resmeyer coming up, leading a bit of a charge with Riley Curtis, Stuart Pedersen, Matt Hunter, Mirko Dortnack there as well, and Michael Shaw. Those guys are starting to catch up to the main pack now. They've done a good job of just getting back up there, just easing their way along and getting up to a position where it can work for them. So good job from those guys to just get back up there and get back onto the tail end of the main pack. That's going to be a good little confidence boost for them and allow them just to keep on the tail of these guys as this race goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could see before Jason Martin really into the back of Phil Otto there, bump drafting him, trying to push him along a little bit, and it seems that it's working.
Yeah, he's given him a good little bit of bump drafting here, really pushing him along. Jason Martin doesn't want those cars beside him at the moment. He wants it to be nice and easy. Because one of the things, as we say, with the cars behind you, it can cause beside you, it can cause a little bit of trouble sometimes. And cause the cars to get a little bit wobbly almost as well. That's one of the other things you get in these pack racing. You'll see the cars swerving left to right, and that's not just always because they're trying to get air. It's because they're sort of getting a bit of the side draft on them, and that pushes them left to right. Now, they're coming off on a couple of lap cars now. So, Brandon Bartlett and Lapland as well, I think it will be. So, they're going to start coming up on those guys. And so far, they've been absolutely lovely to them. And dropped down off the racing line, which the leaders will be very happy about. It's always nice when that happens. But, of course, you don't have to. It's not your job to get out of the way of the leaders. It's the leaders' job to pass you.
Absolutely. And I'm just wondering whether Jason Martin's looking to make a move in the next few laps.
Seems to be getting a little bit racy. The cars are going to get broken up here by this lapped car. This lapped car here of Devon Stove, who's going to be sitting outside on the high line. And this could just cause that high line just have to ease off a little bit, because you're going to be going 3 wide through a corner. Devon Stove doing well, just to hold up there in the high position at the moment, keeping it out of the way of the leaders. But you always have that moment where you just need to lift off a little bit when you're 3 wide. You have to be a little bit more careful, you have to be a bit more cautious, and it can split cars up. You see Kai Sloggett there, just dropping down into the lower line, I think. Yeah, dropping into the lower line after that, passing that lapped car. So a couple of the guys who were in the high line have now dropped to the low line just to sort of set themselves in a little bit of a better position, I think.
Yeah, things seem like they're really getting interesting. We've just gone past halfway mark, and I think guys are starting to think now about where they want to be and where they're going to want to make a move.
Very much so, and they're going to start thinking about also the race end as well. We had that caution earlier on, about lap 25 or 30, I think it was. And you'll find a few people maybe thinking about trying to go the distance or trying to eke out as much fuel as possible, go in for a splash and dash maybe, just keep the fuel in reserve, as looks like Josh Micklemore's just dropped down into that low pack now as well. So Micklemore just dropping down there into the lower pack, leaving that high pack a little bit low on cars now. They're going to start struggling. But Micklemore's making a great gap here for his teammate. So he's dropped down there between the Mixed Motorsport car, the JP Simshed cars, and made a gap for his teammate of Danny G. So they've just slipped in between Norman Clark and Jason Hartigan. So they've made a great position, and it's worked out perfectly for them.
Yeah, that really was textbook. Great to see. Yeah, like you said, Josh Micklemore making that gap and Danny G just slotting in there.
And that's the beauty of teammates. They can make your life a lot easier sometimes. So right here, the high line is going to start suffering because they've lost a lot of cars from their group. A lot of cars from that sort of high line running before have now dropped into that lower line and just stopped giving them that little bit of extra push, a little bit of extra aero on them. So that could start affecting them a little bit. Now, the reason why those guys dropped into the lower line will probably be because you're getting a little bit less air on the car, so there's a little bit less drag for the car as well, so it should just help fuel mileage a little bit more for them too.
Yeah, we can see Bradley Allison just slowly starting to drop back a little bit here.
He's going to be desperately trying to move that car forwards. He's going to be moving in his seat, trying to get it forwards every inch he can, because he knows if he can get into a good slot in that bottom line right now, he could be set for a good position, or even better, if he can get out in front, then he could be leading that lower pack. Of course, leading a pack is not a great thing because you're going to be using up more fuel. So Phil Otto and Bradley Allison at the moment are going to have less fuel than the guys around them. As we see, Phil Otto just having to drop down below the line. Gets a little bit wobbly there, but he manages to pull it back just in the nick of time. And that's going to help that out of line a little bit, because all of those guys will have had to just drop off a tiny bit. Just let the throttle off a millisecond, just as they see that car getting a bit loose.
Yeah, this is interesting stuff. When do you predict the pit stops are going to be, Carl? Obviously, they've taken fuel during the safety car, during the pace car. So, when do you think they'll be coming in for fuel next?
As late as possible, I'm going to go with. I think we're probably going to see cars, because we're lap 20 with the fuel stop, so probably around about lap 75 to 80, I'd say. So quite towards the end of this race. So people are going to be trying their best to really run on fumes if they can, because if you could stay out there, that could be a winning position for you. Obviously, if you can make up enough fuel to get to the end, it's probably going to be around about 10 laps or so. It's going to be hard, but you might see a couple of people try it. Then they will try it, obviously. So we might see a couple of people coming in around about lap 75, 80-ish, I reckon.
Right, so it's going to be whoever can put the least amount of fuel in the next stop.
That's it. It's all down to that part of the racing now for them. It's going to be down to who can put as little fuel in the car as possible. You might see the guys that didn't change tyres starting to struggle a little bit. Only really the right side of the car, I think it is, that will start to struggle, but they could start finding an issue as they get a little bit longer and might just need to change those tyres or might just struggle a little bit. But sort of they might just be okay, but they might still need to change those tyres in that fuel stop. So if that's a green stop, they could suffer very, very badly.
Would you, if you were the driver that changed tyres in that last stop in the pace car period there, would you throw the dice and probably not put tyres on in the next stop?
If the tyres are sitting there, if they've got a bit of tread left on them, I'd probably throw the dice a little bit, especially if it's green, because the amount of time you're going to save is going to be a lot of time. So if you can actually get that working for you, then do it. But it all depends on that state of the tyre. We saw last time out a few people blowing their tyres towards the end of the race. So there's been a lot more punctures in iRacing lately. And we also saw a blowout last night at the Grand National Series for the ANZCAR, the 87 series. So a fair few tyres are starting to blow now. They're not just going down to the rim, they're starting to actually blow when they get there. So you might be putting that in the back of your mind too, just because you don't really want a tyre going on you on Daytona, because it's not a fun experience.
Yeah, 100%. And it's great to see that iRacing are doing that, and that we are getting tyres now that are blowing out rather than just wearing right down and maybe the odd puncture here and there.
Yeah, it does add that extra bit of skill to the drivers, because tyre management is one of the hardest things you can get right in racing. It's not an easy skill to learn. I say that as somebody that's trying to learn themselves. I must admit I'm not too kind on my tyres, especially since the last update. Not too kind on my tyres at all. And it's a very different skill to learn, because you've got to keep steady, you've got to keep smooth. Person that I would say to look at for that is somebody like Edward Foster tonight, because he has been very smooth. He's not been moving the car around. He seems to be very almost stuck to the track tonight. So he's doing a really good job of keeping those tyres. Jason Martin, of course, is someone that always manages to get a little bit extra out of their tyres. He tends to do very well with tyres, so he's good to look out for. Somebody else as well, just to keep on the back burner and just think about it, is Hamish Gallagher. We've seen him do some amazing jobs on tyre saving and just keeping those tyres going longer than you can expect, and also keeping fuel in the car as well. He's running down there in 20th. Running down there in 20th at the moment, but he's behind quite a lot of cars. He's got quite a lot of draft helping him, so he might be in a good position. So somebody's watch for later on in the race, maybe.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same about Michael Skurlock. He's pretty good on his tyres, and he also knows how to save fuel.
Yeah, you can never count Skurlock out of a race, because he will be there to the bitter end and he will try and get it no matter what. We saw last time out him bidding it and then winning it. So these things can happen in open racing. You're not out of it until the end of the race. Now we've got up the top. We've got Phil Otto and Roman Jaeger still, and they're starting to climb up the ranks a little bit. They've lost a lot of cars behind them though, so they really don't have anyone as a real rear gunner at the moment. But they're pushing very hard. They're getting a good little run up here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We sort of talked about it before and said the high line seemed to be slowing down a bit. And
Aston Martin is coming into the pits.
He's called time. He wants fuel and tyres. So tyres. This will be interesting.
A lot of cars coming in now, taking fuel. There was a big group of cars coming in. So I think everybody's coming in a bit earlier than we thought. So I think people are starting to run a bit low on fuel. Maybe those are the people that didn't take as much earlier on in that early pit stop. Sorry, the early caution, sorry. So we might see a few drivers just sitting out a little bit longer now, depending on their strategy. But a big group of drivers just came into the pit lane. Jason Martin, Dan G, Adam Rosa, Josh Livermore, Stuart Pedersen, Hamish Gallagher, Michael Shaw, Devon Stove, Brendan Bartlett, and it looks like Lachlan is out of the race, unfortunately. The leaders are starting to come in now as well. We've still got a few drivers. Oh, and the 11's gone round in the pit lane. Aiden Schultz has gone round in the pit lane.
Obviously, he must have come in maybe too fast,
Caution, yellow flag.
and that's brought the caution out.
That's
We've got a car that's gone around.
We've got a car that's gone around on the track as well. And
I think it might have been Stuart Pedersen.
Stuart Pedersen has had an issue as well. I'm just hearing on the radios, trying to work out exactly what happened through all of that. It's now a moment of trying to work out what's happening in your brain.
So it looks like, sorry, Carl, it looks like Stuart Pedersen might have been on an outlap, and he got the car crossed up and was trying to get a hold of it, and just Hamish Gallagher just sort of collected his car, and that was all he needed to turn him around.
Yeah, he's lost it, and then he's gone into the side of Gallagher there, and then spun him around, and that was a big moment. So that is so yeah, going to be very unhappy about that one. Aiden Schultz as well went round in the pit lane, so on entry. I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened
So this is going to be really interesting, Carl. The guys who pitted just previously pitted under green, so they would have lost a fair amount of time putting fuel and tyres in their car. These guys are going to pit under caution.
Yeah, so these guys that stayed out are going to pit under caution. So this is going to work out quite well for a few drivers, I think. So, but it's whether the pace car was there in time. So, of course, pit lane does get closed in the event of a caution. So this is going to work out perfectly for Jason Martin. Actually, this is the ideal situation for Jason Martin, Danny G, all of those guys that were coming in when that caution came out. This is going to work out very well for them because they would have been in just coming out of the pit lane once that caution flag came out. So it's not as damaging for them as it would have been. So this could be a big gain for those drivers. And it will be a loss for the guys that are coming in now, the guys that stayed out. So usually we see the opposite happen in oval racing. Usually it's the guys that stay out longest tend to pay off. But because those guys were in the pit lane, because we had so many cars pitting in that time, it's going to work out for the guys that actually were in the lane at the time.
It's actually going to put them to the head of the field.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to drop a few cars back. So people like Foster and like that are going to drop down to maybe 13th or so. So about 10th, 13th when they get out of the pit lane. So it has really hurt those guys quite a lot. But the people that it would have helped is, well, Jason Martin. That's the person that's going to help the most, as well as Danny G. So those guys that came in on that, were coming in when that caution flag came out, it's really paid off for them. It will have also helped Aiden Schultz as well, who, as I said, he did go round in the pit lane when he was coming in, and a car did just tap him. But he would have lost a lot more time if that had stayed green for another couple of laps.
Yeah, this is an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate for some of these guys as well. It's going to be it's almost like the worst thing that could happen. Of course, those guys that came in the lap before, so I think Mirko Dortnack, James Robbie, Tristan Koch, they all pitted a little bit earlier. They're all going to lose a lap from this. So it didn't work out for them because they pitted under a full green stint. But for the guys that were just coming in the pit lane when that caution came out, this is the ideal situation for them. It could not work out any better for them.
That's fantastic, and that's really put the Mitch Motorsport guys in the box seat with Jason Martin in first, Denny G in second. You got Adam and Adam Rosell there breaking them up in third, and then Josh Mickelmore will be in fourth.
He is, but one of the things you've got to look at is there's two Mitch Motorsport cars on the outside line, one of them on the inside line. So that is going to be that's going to be quite useful for them indeed. The pace car lights have gone out. Sitting back there as well is Raymond Yeager. So Raymond Yeager having a good job as well. So it worked out well for him. Phil Otto, of course, we saw him come in a little bit earlier too. It's paid off for him. Kai Sloggett, Michael Skurlock is there in 9th. Matt Hunter has jumped up to 10th place. Brilliant job for Hunter. Aiden Schultz only went down to 11th despite that spin in the pit lane. Riley Curtis in 12th, and then 13th, 14th, we've got the JP Simshed cars of Hartigan, Foster, Carol Walden, Clark. So those guys lost out big, but the pace car will be coming in shortly, and we're going to get back to racing on lap 62 of 90.
So what would you do if you were Martin here? Would you hold the guys up behind you to let your teammates in front, or will you just go?
He'll just go, I think. Being Martin, the Mitch Motorsport boys work well together, but they fight to each other as well. They want to be the winning car at all times. So I imagine we'll see Martin just drop the hammer as quick as he can, and Danny G, the hammer on the outside, will try and work it out for him. And away they go, and you can just see there, it worked out perfectly, actually, because they managed to make a gap for themselves. Now, who's going to try and slip into line? Will it be Danny G going down in front? It is. So they managed to work that out very well. So they might have worked that out with each other a bit there. But hard to say, because as I say, Mitch Motorsport boys tend to run a little bit more aggressively with each other as teammates. They do work together, but I think Danny G got the better of Jason Martin on that one. But at the moment, Raymond Yeager's got the best of them all because he's getting a great run up there with Kai Sloggett behind him.
Once again, that high line is looking really racy at the restart.
It is, and it does get a good launch off the restart, but then when it starts settling in a little bit, it falls off, and you can see Kai Sloggett's just jumped straight down into the draft of those Mitch Motorsport cars now, because he's seen what they're trying to do. They're going to try and run away with it, and this is going to leave Raymond Yeager out to dry. He's going to drop down maybe, quite a few spots at the moment. He's going to have to drop down to Riley Curtis, who's pushing along on the outside line. Interestingly enough, on the outside line now is the JP Simshed cars. You've got Jason Hartigan there in front, pushing along with Norman Clark and Foster there. So they've jumped onto the outside line because that's their only chance to get up the field. So we're going to see how much speed those cars actually have in them now. We're going to see how well they can work on this outside line and if they can push themselves up to the front of the pack.
Yeah, there's going to be no mucking around now. These guys are really going to be going for it. But it's great to see the, as you say, I know the Mitch Motorsport guys, they race hard, they race for themselves, but it's also great to see the teamwork once they've put those three cars together, hoping that they're going to be able to clear the pack and get a clean getaway.
Yeah, they do work very well with each other, and when they formed, we said they were a bit of a super team, and they definitely are. They're some of the top drivers in oval racing in Australia, and when they said they were forming a team, there was a collective gasp, and then oh no, it's going to be domination, which it kind of has been. They've been a very dominant team. They're very strong, but they're all very good drivers, and they like to race for themselves. They like to try and beat each other as well, and that's a good thing to have in a team because it just pushes the other driver along, just gives them a little bit more encouragement, and just sort of makes them feel a little bit more racy sometimes.
That's it. Sometimes that competition breeds competition, and it enables you to find those extra tenths that you wouldn't be able to find on your own.
No, that's absolutely it. Another guy that had a bit of misfortune in all that was Hamish Gallagher down in 18th at the moment. He's just got caught in the middle of two packs at the moment. He's out there on his own. He's going to start trying to catch up to the guys in front of him, that of Joshua Carroll Walden, Mirko Dortmack, people like that. So he's just going to want to try and catch up to the tail of that main pack now. But he's just going to have to wait for the pack behind him to start catching him. That could take a little bit of time.
Jason Hartigan's looking really racy, but it kind of looks like he's got nowhere to go at the moment.
No, he's caught back behind Riley Curtis, Raymond Yeager, and Bradley Allison again. Bradley Allison's got himself back in the lead of that outside pack. So he's been there all night, and that's been his favoured position. So again, Bradley Allison's got some good speed on that outside. He knows the line well and he knows how it's going to work. There are a few cars that were running the low line all night now on the outside line, so they might just need to take a few moments to get back into the rhythm and get used to how that outside line's working. Just get used to how it's feeling. The DPR cars, Phil Otto and Stephen Williams, dropped down a little bit in that but they're starting to form up a little bit now. They're getting closer to each other. So again, I expect to see them working together and trying to get up the field a bit if they can. The outside line's starting to push along a little bit, but they need to push a bit harder, try and get in front of the Mitch Motorsport cars so they can sort of block them off from running away.
Yeah, and they're going to have their work cut out for them to do that. Those guys from Mitch Motorsport, once they're together, they're very strong.
They are, yes, and you know, as I say, they've got a strong team. You could probably, when you say the weakest link in Mitch Motorsport, you say sort of Danny G, because he has the sort of fewest wins, but he's still extremely strong, and he's shown he can win races. He's shown he knows how to lead and win races from start to finish. And we've got Josh Mickelmore and Jason Martin in there as well. You've got three of the best drivers in Australia there working together in a draft situation. It makes it very daunting and difficult for anybody to try and pass them.
I mean, you look at these cars now, they're all three of them almost bump drafting each other.
Yeah, they know each other so well too. They just know each other's driving style. They know how they work with each other, and it's all important stuff for teammates. They always do a good job, and it all tends to work out well for them. But I've got to say, at the moment, Bradley Allison is doing a fantastic job, doing really well out there. He's been one to watch this year, Bradley Allison, getting some amazing drives, doing some amazing jobs out there as well.
Yeah, 100%. He looks really comfortable out there, and he just looks like he's threatening. Once again, you know, sort of biding his time and waiting for the opportunity to make a move.
Yeah, he sort of knows that outside line well enough now that he feels sort of comfortable out there, and he's just seeing how it goes at the moment, just not pushing it too hard. Same with Raymond Yeager actually as well. We've seen Raymond Yeager up at the top all night long. Yeah,
20 laps to go now in the race. I'd say things are really going to start to heat up. I can see, saw before Jason Hardigan there looked like he just wanted to get past Riley Curtis somehow, or at least try to get down to the low line, but there was nowhere for him to go.
Yeah, this is the part of the race where people are going to start working hard and trying their best to, trying their best to get in the front now, because this is the fighty end of the race now. This is where you push the go button. This is where you start going hard or you start just falling back. So you've really got to start pushing now, and really just got to start trying your best to get out there. One to watch out for as well as Kai Sloggett, actually, because he missed a few races this season, but can be very, very quick when needs to be. So again, somebody else to keep an eye on there up the front of the pack, and he's sitting just behind the Mitch Motorsport boys.
100%. Kai's absolutely no slouch. It's taken him maybe a round to sort of get back into the rhythm, but he when he starts threatening, when he starts pushing, you better watch out.
That's it. Yeah, it's good to see the MFR team back on the track as well with that one. So we can see a little bit further back, just the cars are really starting to struggle with the aero wash a little bit further down the pack. Phil Otto just getting very, very loose through some of the corners too. So there's quite a bit of the side draft coming along, that's causing a little bit of trouble at the moment. So we'll see how those guys can continue with that. And you can see that that's caused a bit of a gap as well between Riley Curtis and Raymond Yeager. So that's going to push the JP Sinched cars of Hartigan, Clark and Foster back a little bit, leave them a little bit of a gap. Now, they might be able to get a run going and then help push along towards the end of the race, but they have to start working pretty well together. It looks like it's starting to favour the lower line.
Yeah, once again, that lower line starting to look a little bit racier, starting to look a little bit quicker.
Yeah, see, the lower line seems to be the most stable line. It seems to be the most consistent line, in all honesty. The outside line has been fast a few times tonight, and it's shown it can have speed, but it's been a bit of a fickle lady out there, and it's not been the best one to run on for outright pace. So you can sometimes get a bit of a good draft going on, a bit of a good run, but then it seems to just drop off from you. But the lower line has been pretty much consistent all race and just stabilised into a position where it works nicely.
Absolutely, and we watched the Mitch Motorsport guys here, 1, 2, 3 tucked in behind each other. Looks fantastic, and while we're talking about looks, big shout out to Track Cams for Gourmets for these awesome camera angles. Cars look amazing. I just got scared before where the cars came over the top of, and here we go again. Looks absolutely brilliant. So if anyone's looking to take their broadcasts or even their streams to the next level, trackcams22.com, check them out.
Yeah, it makes a big difference on the broadcast. It looks very nice, makes it look nice and pretty, which is what we like to see. So lap 75 now, so it's getting towards the end now, getting up to lap 80, so 15 to go. That outside line has got to start pushing along a little bit harder to get up there. Still a bit of time to go, of course, but it's now now is the time when people are going to start planning their attack. They're going to start trying to work out what their plan of attack will be, how they're going to make this work, how they're going to make everything run, and most importantly, how they're going to get to the front.
Absolutely, these laps are going to start counting down very quickly, and somebody's got to make a move if they're going to want to get to the pointy end, because you know that the guys from Mitch, they're not going to give it up easily.
No, they've got the bit between the teeth tonight. Obviously, they a bit of luck involved in that one. When that caution came out, they were very lucky. A lap later, or 2 laps later, that could have been the end of their night. So they got a little bit lucky in that one. But, you know, in motorsport, you make your own luck sometimes as well, and they've been very good. They managed to work their way up to the pointy end of the field. They just, things are falling in place for them at the moment. And you've got to say Bradley Allison as well. He's making it work. Raymond Yeager could be an outside shot for him too. He's been very strong all night, just sitting in behind Allison, not pushing too hard, but with following a car all night long like that, you can see where they're strong and where they're weak, and try and work out where you're going to actually make the attack. The outside line's now got a fairly good run on them, and this could be Allison's chance to get down in front of the Mitch Motorsport cars. If they can get a little bit further on, they just need to push that little bit extra harder. It's almost like they need an extra 2 horsepower in the car. But if they can actually get out in front of the Mitch Motorsport guys now, they could start hampering their speed and just lock in a good position for themselves.
Yeah, you can see that they've sort of kicked it up a notch now. So it looks like that outside line is getting a little bit quicker. But the guys in the lower line respond though, and now they're sort of moving ahead.
Yeah, it's like a rubber band race, isn't it? Almost, you sort of think you're getting ahead a bit further, and then the other guy just springs in front of you. But the outside line at the moment just started nosing ahead slightly through some of the corners, I've noticed. So they are getting there a little bit, but they are struggling for it. They've got a bit of a gap between themselves and Riley Curtis, who's doing a great job, by the way. They're in 6th position at the moment. Riley Curtis has just slotted himself up there very well. A few drivers, this has worked out very well for people like Matt Hunter, Riley Curtis. It worked out very well for them indeed with that late caution. It's really given them a chance to get right up to the pointy end of the grid. Of course, Josh Micklemore, who missed out on qualifying, up there in second in line at the moment behind Danny G. So quite a few drivers have done their job to get from the back of the field to the front of the field very well tonight.
Yeah, some great racing, and we're now seeing Bradley Allison just nosing ahead of Danny G, and Danny G now obviously in the lower line there, being able to ease ahead.
But he's going to lose out because Raymond Yeager had to pull out of that for a moment. Looks like he needed some fresh air on the car, or it got a little bit loose, and that's just lost him a few positions. You can see he's dropped back 2 car lengths. Now they're going to start pushing along again, and with Riley Curtis behind him as well, I can just help start pushing. But at the moment, it looks like Raymond Yeager's just needing to get some air into that engine. Oh, he's gone wide and hit the wall. That's going to be a big moment for the outside line. Michael Skurlock had to make evasive action as well. He's dropped quite far back too. He's had to drop to the back of the pack almost. Big moment there for Raymond Yeager. Great job saving that one as well. Great job for everybody avoiding that incident too. Very nicely driven by everyone around that car.
Absolutely, and you called it. It seemed that Raymond Yeager was in a bit of trouble the lap before, and he has just fallen right down into 17th spot now.
Yeah, big loss there, and it can happen so quickly on a track like this where all the cars are so close together. The top 17 are split by 0.3 of a second. There's nothing between these guys. There is absolutely nothing between them at the moment.
Yeah, and they've been running like this all night, and now we see Bradley Allison ahead again.
Getting a good push at the moment by Kai Sloggett, and Kai Sloggett's got on that outside line. He's spotted his opportunity to get up there quickly, and he's seen a guy that he's run with quite a lot tonight in Bradley Allison, and this could be the charge that outside line needs to get ahead of that bottom line now. This could be their chance to try and box in Danny G.
Yeah, fantastic. And Kai and Kai's been there all night, just sort of there or thereabouts, just doing his thing, nice out of the picture. He's jumped up when the opportunities arose, and now he's trying to work with Bradley Allison to get those cars up the front.
Yeah, doing a great job tonight, and you can see on the entry he's starting to push Bradley Allison a little bit. Now, the trouble is, it looks like when you push on the entry a little bit faster on that outside line, the exit struggles a little bit. The car gets a little bit loose as you start to get onto the exit line. So that's something they're going to have to just watch out for and just be a little bit cautious of. Of course, when you're running side by side here as well, you do get some of the side draft as well, and that causes the car to get very unsettled. And so you get that wobble effect that you see down the back straight sometime. And can become very, very tricky.
Yeah, 100%. Here we go, almost coming up on 7 laps to go. Trevor Micklemore Martin won't take any prisoners. No, he won't. And look at
Allison makes the move. Bradley Allison has made that move down, and we got a caution. We've got a caution.
Steve Williams,
as well, has been involved in that. Go back and see what happened there. There were a few cars involved in that. The number 2, so yeah, Raymond Yeager actually involved in that too, but it looks like it was the 82. Where are we? So yeah, it looks like Stephen Williams, actually. It seems to be Stephen Williams got caught in by Aiden Schultz there. Stephen Williams has gone round, and then quite a few cars have got into the back of that one. So Aiden Schultz just going a little bit too quick. A little bit too quick there. Aiden Schultz on the radio straight away saying sorry about that one. But that came out just at the perfect time for Bradley Allison, who just made that move.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And this is played right into the hands of Bradley Allison and Kai Sloggett.
It has indeed. It's worked out very well for those two, because Kai Sloggett's going to be leading the bottom line now. That's his big payoff for Bradley Allison managing to get in front of Danny G. That means that the Mitch Motorsport cars are going to be blocked behind another pair of cars. So this restart's going to be fascinating to see how they go. We're on lap 84 of 90, of course, as well. So we're going to have only a couple of laps of green flag racing now.
Yep, absolutely. It looks like we've got a bit of a technical issue. Looks like our broadcast is stuck in replay mode for some reason, but we'll carry on and see if we can.
See if we can fix
there
that.
There we go. We're back into the live mode.
Technical difficulties.
It's always a moment of pause when a technical difficulty arises. Wakes you up.
It's better than coffee, isn't it? I find technical difficulties wake you up better than coffee. It's always a moment when you go, oh no, what's going to happen? But luckily we've got back. So we've got back with 5 laps to go. So on lap 85 now, and that's going to mean we're going to see a dash to the end now. We've got to say Kai Sloggett, Bradley Allison are going to be sitting in the best seats in the house in the first couple of those rows.
Absolutely, and you could almost have picked it all night long. Bradley Allison just seemed to be running that high line, waiting for an opportunity, buying his time. He just got a sniff of an opportunity and then made his move and made it decisive as well.
It was. It was a very aggressive move. In all honesty, he really came down and just the minutest gap between himself and Danny G in that overtake. But it needed to be done because the outside line has been struggling to get there. It was their first opportunity all night long to actually get to a position where they could slot in front, and he used that moment perfectly to get in front of Danny G. Kai Sloggett was just on the outside, so Danny G couldn't bounce back, and then that caution flag came out almost as a moment of relief there for Bradley Allison. It almost waited just long enough for him to get in front before it came out, and it was almost the perfect time for it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had to make that move because if he didn't, he probably wouldn't get another chance tonight.
No, that's it. It would have really made it tricky tonight for him to make another move. It could have been the end of his chances for this evening's race. And that's the thing on a track like this, is you've got to take those advantages when they happen, because you never know when something weird's going to happen. You know, we've seen it 2 times tonight where a caution has affected the lead of the race, so to say, and sort of helped lock things in. And it's been very lucky for a few people.
Absolutely.
So some good luck out there tonight for a few people. So pace cars lights have gone out. So we're going to be looking at getting back to racing very shortly.
Yeah, it's certainly not over yet though. 5 laps, anything can happen. I know that Danny G is not going to give up.
No, that's it. You've got to be. Well, it's one of those things you've got to keep going to the end on a race like this. You've got to keep pushing hard. You've got to get there. You've got to just keep racing, because it is not over until that checkered flag, of course, and anything can happen. So they're starting to line up single file now, and you can see how they're lining up. So you can see that on the outside, it's worked out quite well for Mitch Motorsport, because they're now 3 abreast again.
Green flag.
So Bradley Allison's got to get this right, and he needs Kai Sloggett to help push him along right now. There's a little bit of a wobble further back from Jason Hartigan, and that could be the chance that the Mitch Motorsport team need to get back in front of this race. You can see those 3 cars are pushing well, and this is going to be their opportunity to get back in front. Kai Sloggett's seen this, and he's going to push Bradley Allison for all he's got at the moment, and he's doing it as hard as he can, bump drafting Bradley Allison as much as he can, trying his best to get the cars behind him back up into speed. That low line really needs to start working together. There's a lot of single car teams and single driver teams out there, a lot of people that don't have any teammates around them, working against a team with many teammates around them.
And we've seen it time and time again on the restart. That high line seems to work really well for the first couple of laps on the restart, and then sort of falls away. So if they're going to do anything, they need to do it now.
They do. And just looking a little bit further back, just the Jason Hartigan car and Norman Clark got contacted on that restart, so a bit of bump away for those cars. Not what they would have wanted to happen, but at the moment, Bradley Allison and Kai Sloggett are working perfectly together. Riley Curtis there as well. They're pushing that front line on, and Kai Sloggett's come up in front of the Mitch Motorsport train. Brilliant move by Kai Sloggett. This could be the opportunity he needs to get across in front of the lead of this race. He's getting pushed along well now. If he stays there, that's going to stop the Mitch Motorsport cars from being able to make a lunge at the end of this race. Riley Curtis now is working with Bradley Allison, pushing him along really well. Adam Rosell is also there, up in 6th position at the moment. They're pushing along. You can see the Mitch Motorsport cars are just pushing Kai Sloggett to in front, because they need to make a gap. They need Kai Sloggett to
Oh, no!
And there they go! Kai Sloggett into the wall, and the incident happened. There is a huge crash at the front. All of the cars at the front are involved in that incident.
This is the incident that you were talking about, Carl.
That is the big one, and that is the big one at Daytona, folks. You don't get any bigger than that.
Look at this.
We've warned about it all night long, but Kai Sloggett there just trying to get in front of Bradley Allison. I think he's just getting a little bit of a push from Danny G, and this is where it happened, folks. He's just gone down, and Bradley Allison's gone up into Danny G. Huge crash there. Just got to talk about, as we look at that crash again, watch Jason Hartigan. Watch Jason Hartigan in that crash, because it's almost like the seas parted for him then and allowed him through. So Jason Hartigan has got through there, and that worked out very well for him in that moment.
Can anyone say Stephen Bradbury?
Yeah, that was a big one there. I think I'm trying to work out what's going on now of who's in whose place. At the moment, I've got Jason Martin in the lead at the moment, missing almost all of the front end of his car though. So Jason Martin looks to have got the lead in that one. Jason Hartigan got second. Matt Hunter's worked his way up to third place. Great job for Matt Hunter. Michael Skurlock now sits in fourth place. Hamish Gallagher fifth. Norman Clark sixth. Devin Stove sixth.
And we saw that. I saw that happening from almost the turn before there, with Kai Sloggett starting to come down onto Bradley Allison, and unfortunately that was just the start of a monumental crash. And there we go. Jason Martin has got to come in, so that's going to put Jason Hartigan in first and Matt Hunter in second. No, I thought he was coming in, but no, he's staying out.
He was just throwing the dummy there, Jason Martin. He's going to stay out because it's going to be a green-white checker for this one. So it will be the Hybrid Racing Simulations green-white checker. And Jason Martin's going to try and stay out there. His front of the car, though, is not going to be aerodynamically good. Now, I mentioned last time round, Jason Hartigan took a bump in the rear from Norman Clark at that last restart. So he's got a bit of damage on the car as well.
That's right.
The only car in that top group that's not as... that looks like it's a little bit cleaner is Matt Hunter, who's going to be starting down behind Jason Martin, I think. So it might not be so good for him because he's going to be starting behind a very aerodynamically damaged car at the moment. But if he can get out in front, that bit of extra aerodynamic stability on his car could be a good thing. But this could be, it's anybody's race now. There's so many damaged cars up in the top group of cars. Can't really say who's going to win this one.
Yeah, this has really thrown the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, I think this is throwing the cat amongst the pigeons, throwing the pigeons amongst the cat,
but this is
every other synonym we can think of.
This is some interesting stuff here. That Michael Skurlock's car's got a bit of damage on it. Hamish Gallagher's car's looking fairly clean.
Yeah, I think Hamish Gallagher was one of the few cars that got through there without too much damage. He's got a big wrinkle on the left front of the car. Quite a bit of damage there. Devin Stove as well got through relatively okay. I don't think there's any car in that top group that doesn't have damage at the moment.
Just trying to see Josh Micklemore. Yeah, his car's not looking too bad, but I tell you what, Jason Martin's car does look like a crumpled beer can. He's going to have his work cut out for him to keep these other guys behind him, even though it's only going to be 3 laps.
It is. The car with the least damage, after I've looked through them all, is the car in number 9 is 62 Mirko Dortnack, and he's got a little bit of a crumple on there, but the rest of the car looks pretty new compared to the rest of these cars. I don't think you get much money for these cars at a used car sales lot.
Only driven once on the weekend.
One not so careful owner.
All care, no responsibility taken.
That's it, as all racing drivers do. They're starting to pair up now. Jason Hartigan could be in the best spot at the moment, though, because he has very little damage on the front of his car.
I'd love to see Jason get up for the win, but Michael Skurlock's car looks pretty good as well. Apart from that little bit of crinkling on the back there, yeah, it's got a little bit of damage on the front. This is going to be a very interesting 3 laps.
Yeah, I think if all of these were road cars, they'd all be in limp home mode at the moment. I thought I was actually focused on Foster through that crash, and it looked like he was going to make it, and then a car rolled down on the grass, and he caught that car. So I don't think anyone got through unscathed in that incident. I think every car in the field managed to crash in that incident there, so we did well in that respect. But now comes the restart, and you've got to say Jason Hartigan is looking good for this one because he's got a clean road to start on next to a car that probably has some engine damage as well. Because you've got to remember that when you bang the front like that in one of these cars, it usually damages the engine a bit. Even if there's no engine damage, the aero loss is going to be huge for Jason Martin. Pace car comes in, and away we go. Goes green. Jason Martin drops a hammer. Jason Hartigan gets a good run, and you can see Jason Hartigan getting a good launch here, but Skurlock is going to get a better run because he's going to get the draft. You can see the cars behind Jason Martin got stuck behind him. Hartigan came down sharp to keep Skurlock behind him. It's going to be Skurlock and Hartigan now. The two are going to be fighting. Who's going to get the better run, though? Hartigan at the moment is not in the winning position because he's got a car behind him that's going to catch the draft. A little bit further back, we've got Devon Stove and Tristan Koch as well. Tristan Koch's car is looking relatively good on that outside line at the moment. He might be able to get a good run here. So we've gone into the overtime, and Hartigan's going to lead at the moment. Skurlock's going to get a good draft. So it's Skurlock. It's Hartigan, Skurlock, Devon Stove, Matt Hunter, Tristan Koch at the moment. Jason Hartigan come across the line and just got to make it around a couple more turns, and it could be good for him. Foster's coming up now to the pack of cars. He's going to try and work his way up there. But is there going to be enough time here for him?
And this is it. You know, we said all race long, don't count out Michael Skurlock. He always finds a way to be there or thereabouts at the end of the race. And as it turns out, a lot of luck here. But look at this on the outside here.
Yes, on the outside, we've got Tristan Koch getting a good push, and they're going to go free.
Hamish Gallagher getting a good push there.
Gallagher coming through well, and Gallagher's going to go through. Koch has got back in front of Foster. It's going to be very close between Hartigan and
Hamish Gallagher by 1/100th of a second.
Nothing between them at the end there. Gallagher, we did say look out for Gallagher. It did not look like it was going to work well for him earlier on in this race. But by the end there, what a brilliant victory for Hamish Gallagher. He managed to get through that incident relatively unscathed. He got himself up into the right place at the right time. Jason Hartigan as well. So close for that win for Hartigan as well. Just nothing between those two cars. Tristan Koch, a career best finish, I think, off the top of my head for Tristan Koch in P3. Great job for him. Michael Skurlock there in 4th place. Edward Foster managed to work his way back up to 5th place after that incident. 6th place was Devon Stove. Again, I think career best. Matt Hunter in 7th with James Roby in 8th. Riley Curtis up in the top 9 with Mirko Dornak 10th. Joshua Carroll Walden got 11th with Josh Micklemore in 12th. 13th was Phil Otto with Danny G 14th. 15th, Stephen Williams. Jason Martin dropped all the way back to 16th position. 17th was Bradley Allison. 18th, Raymond Yeager. 19th, Bren Bartlett. Michael Shaw 20th. 21st was Kai Sloggett. Adam Roswell 22nd. Norman Clark 23rd. Logan Resmeyer in 24th. Aidan Shorts 25th. Lachlan in 26th. Stuart Pedersen 27th. Mick Wilson 28th. 29th was Bill Hickey. 30th was Jackson Barrier, and Darren Bumfield didn't make the start. Well, JP, that was a rather exciting finish, wasn't it?
That was an absolute awesome race. Really feel gutted for the guys that were involved in that crash, but it just completely changed the entire complexion of the race. We really didn't know who was going to win it. Looking through the cars, trying to figure out who had the better car. At the end of the day, it was Hamish Gallagher had the better car and managed to get it by 9/1000ths of a second. Absolutely.
He got in the right place at the right time, but just by milliseconds. You know, there was nothing in it at the end there. It was really just getting lucky at the right moment for Hamish Gallagher. He just managed to get himself slotted in front of Tristan Koch, and that's where the move made. So they go 3 wide through that final corner. And that's when he got in front of Tristan Koch. Koch just pushed him along a little bit. Then you can see just Hartigan losing a little bit of time from that. And it just gave him enough speed to get out in front for Hamish Gallagher. That was a very close finish and a very typical Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a while there, a couple of laps, I thought Michael Skurlock was definitely going to be in with a chance. He'd been just lurking about during the entire race in the mid pack, managed to get away without too much damage to his car. But once again, Hamish Gallagher had the least damage of all of them. A lot of luck, but look, you take it when you can get it.
You do indeed. So what we'll do is we'll grab down our winner if we can.
Let's have a look and see if I can find Hamish. There he is.
Well, Hamish Gallagher, welcome back to the booth and congratulations on that Daytona victory there.
Oh, hell yeah, Carl. Oh, that was a good last lap.
You don't get much closer than that, do you, for winning a race? There was absolutely nothing between you and Jason Hardigan there at that last moment, but you just had a hair ahead of him.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't going to go for it, to be honest. I was just going to happy to push Tristan, but he sort of opened it up a little bit. Figured, oh, why not go for it? I know Jason. I could trust him. He wasn't going to come up on me. So, yeah.
That was a close one, Hamish. 9 1,000ths of a second, mate.
Oh, sorry, JP. Just steal one off your boy there. But
I'm not sorry. I was on the edge of my seat, mate, just yelling when you came through. It was great to see. We really didn't know who was going to make it there in the end. There, we were looking for the car with the least amount of damage, and I think yours must have been it.
Yeah, no, it was a shame we had that big wreck there. I'm not quite sure what happened, but it was a pretty good race up till then. Although I did get wrecked early on the race, coming off pit road, so. It was a bit like Skirley last week when he spun and won. This time I got wrecked and then won. So maybe that's the best strategy.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, maybe that's the thing to do in the future. Make sure you get wrecked before getting to the end of the race, and then you've got a good chance of winning. Just going back to that incident, the big incident, that is, not the pit lane incident. But for yourself, you were running down there in what about sort of 10th, I think it was, back at the time, obviously, and then everybody in front of you has that wreck. What do you think in those moments? Not that you have long to think about it, but in those moments, what's going through your head?
Oh, basically, you just go, well, this is it probably. You just kind of accept it. You just come up behind you, and I don't think I had anyone behind me, or at least had a good gap, so I was able to brake in time before they all stopped, so it's just really luck. You just got to, there's no real much skill involved because I couldn't go anywhere. I was stuck on the top side. That's generally the worst place. When there's a wreck, you can't really go anywhere. You can't go to the apron or anything like that. So,
no, I was just going back.
Just wait and hope.
That's it. I was actually just going back and having a look from the view of your car, and you did get very lucky up there because it was almost like everybody went down low for you. So yeah, it worked out very well in that respect. Obviously, you did have a bit of damage on the car from earlier on with that incident coming off pit road. How much was that affecting you during the race?
It killed my speed towards the end there. I thought I was going to lose that front pack, but luckily I got picked up, I think, by someone else, and I was able to get back up there. So it was good enough to get there, so I'll take it.
That's it. It was a bit of a race of that tonight. You sort of worked your way from the back quite a few times, it seems. It was very much a recovery race, almost all race long for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just wanted to drop to the back. I don't really like this plate racing. I just wanted to chill out and got 90 long laps here. I don't want to be sitting up side by side for 90 laps, but there was a few interesting characters down the back. Made life a little bit interesting. But yeah, so up front, up rear, there's no real safe space in plate racing.
No, absolutely. Well, congratulations. Before I let you go, of course, anyone you'd like to give a shout out for tonight?
I'll give a shout out to you, Carl. I gave you a shout out last week. Glad
yes,
the computer up and running again. You're back.
You brought my computer back to life, so I appreciate that. No, it's nice to return. Nice to have you back up in the booth, Hamish. Thank you so much, and I am sure we'll see you again. We've got the chase coming up next, of course, and looks like you should be well in with that one now, I think, with drop rounds included. So what's going to be strategy-wise for yourself in that sort of scenario?
Obviously, you've got the two big super teams, and Skirley. They're going to be probably the favourites. So I just want to try and hang with them as much as I can, race each race. So I really just take it on a race-by-race basis, try and do my best I can each time, and we'll see what happens.
Otherwise, I wish you the best, and hopefully we'll have you back up in the box before the end of the season. But if not, have a good run in the chase, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Carl.
Hamish Gallagher there, the winner of the race. And coming up next, we have Jason Hartigan, second place man by not much at all. Maybe if he didn't get a tap on the front of his car, he might have won that one.
Yeah, how's that for close, eh?
That was too close, Jace.
Oh, tell me about it. I saw Hamish coming. I was like, oh no, he's probably going to get me here. And then I saw his bumper just creep ahead. And, he got me.
Like, I told Hamish 9/1000ths of a second at the end.
Yeah, it was close. I mean, I was lucky enough to get through the middle of all that carnage. I don't know how I got through that, but
Yeah, I was talking about that actually because we went back and had a look at the replay. It's almost like the seas parted for you and you just drove straight through it and didn't have an issue in that. So very lucky in that respect. And I think the thing that got you out there quite a bit as well was the fact that Jason Martin was up in second place, of course. Quite a bit of damage on the front of that car, definitely not helping on that restart. So you must have been licking your lips a little bit on that restart, knowing that there were a few cars with damage around you and you had a relatively okay car.
yeah. Well, I mean, the only damage I actually ended up with was a bit of rear damage after Norman got into the back of me after the inside line checked up earlier on in the race. But it was kind of touch and go on the last restart because of Jason's damage. I didn't want to push past and then get a penalty for passing him before the line. So I was sort of actually backing it off quite a bit. And then once the line came, I just put my foot flat and Skurlock had damage behind me, so he wasn't really a very good pusher at the end, but did what I could, and yeah, second place. I'll take that for that race.
Yeah, well, you did a good job there. It looked like you guys had some pace tonight. Obviously, in qualifying, you guys locked out the front rows. Just the big thing I got to ask you, obviously, is that mid caution, of course, when you got caught out in the pit stops. Obviously, a bit of bad luck tonight for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we had a strategy to come in and just save. We weren't too worried about leading early on. We'd rather everyone else lead and all that. And then it was probably 2 or 3 laps before we would have pitted when that middle caution came out, which it stuffed us over a bit, and then we got caught behind everyone else, basically playing slaloms over the track because they couldn't hold it straight. So, but I mean, it is what it is. Edward got a top 5 and I got second, so I mean, it's still not a bad result end of the day.
No, considering that crash at the end, not a bad result indeed. Well, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to give a shout out tonight, Jason?
Yeah, big shout out to all the boys on the team. We've been putting in the hard yards lately, and it's starting to pay off. So, yeah, big shout out to them. Drivesim, Goodyear Auto Care, Abruzzi, Dragon RC, National Tracking Systems, VR cover, for putting all their effort as well. So yeah, bring on the chase next week.
Yeah, that's it. Obviously, the chase coming up next. So how are you feeling about going into that for, well, the first time, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah, it is my first time. It's my first year. I did 2 races last year in ANZCAR, so yeah, this will be the first time in the chase, so I don't really know what to expect. I'll just go in and I guess at the start just try and rack up some points and see how the races unfold. And, yeah.
Well, we'll wish you best of luck, and hopefully we'll have you back up in the booth again during the chase. But if not, I'm sure we'll catch up with you again at some stage. You seem to be up there a lot these days, up in that sort of top section of the grid. So good luck for the chase, Jason, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Cal. Cheers, JP.
See you, mate.
See ya.
Second place man there, Jason Hartigan. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like we got Tristan Koch up there tonight. So P3 not up there at all. So unfortunately, we can't have a chat to him. But great job from Tristan Koch managing to get this, I believe, his highest finishing position in the ANZCAR Cup now, possibly in some of the leagues as well. Tristan Koch, prolific driver, done very well tonight. Got very good position. And he was up there on pace as well through some of that too. So really good job from Tristan Koch. Nice to see him up there in the top 3. Of course, we're going to go into the chase next. So what we might do is, just thinking, might grab Michael Skurlock up next, just because he's going to be leading into the chase, I think. So we'll grab him up quickly. Michael Skurlock, how are you going? Carl Willie here with the JP Simshed broadcasting team.
Oh, hello, mate. It's a bit of a surprise visit. I thought Tristan would get in here.
Unfortunately, we seem to be visiting Tristan from the green room, so we grabbed the next best man we could, and that was yourself.
Yeah, well, another lucky night, mate, for me tonight. Just rolling around, really. You can't do much. Just wait in line and see what happens.
No, very lucky indeed. And well, that finish, that last 5 laps or so, obviously the big one happened, which often does on this style of track. What were your thoughts going into that one?
Yeah, I was waiting for it, and I was sort of calling it earlier, saying this is where it happens. But everything looked pretty good up until then. Everyone was sort of holding their lines and that, and it just sort of all of a sudden happened. So even though I was ready for it, it still caught me off guard, and I did get a bit of damage in there, but obviously not as bad as half the other guys. And just, yeah, I mean, it's just luck, man. I mean, most of that racing is. And then, just managed to restart. Obviously, Jason Martin's car was totally busted up. He went nowhere off the start, and then tucked in behind Hardigan and just sat there. I was down on RPM, so just put my foot flat, mate, and chin on the rim and sort of see where I ended up.
No, well, considering the damage then, and considering you were lacking horses to push you along, not the worst finish you could have tonight. But this, of course, is going to help. Well, it's going to be, I think, off memory, you should be there or thereabouts in the lead of the chase when we come into it now. So what are you expecting for the chase this season?
Well, I was a bit confused on how the chase even worked. So I think now I've got I'm understanding it sort of resets the top, however many it is in there, and then there's a 5-point gap between everybody, I think, staggers it. So I think there's still another drop round to go into the equation, but I mean, I think I'll still be in front because I think I'm like 12 points ahead at the moment. And with that finish and the fact that Danny G and Mitchell and Martin had pretty bad endings there, I don't see how I drop from there. But I don't know. Those drop rounds can make a big difference. So I don't know yet what happens.
They can indeed, but we know you're going to get into the chase. That's the main thing. So we wish you luck for the chase. Of course, that's starting at Darlington next time out. A very different track for us to be racing on than Daytona, of course.
Yeah, Darlington. I love that track. It's one of my favourites. And there's actually quite a few tracks that I like in the chase, so I'm looking forward to it. There's the Roval, and then I think New Hampshire might be in there, which is, I love that one. And Phoenix is like probably my favourite, and that's the last. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it should be good, and we look forward to seeing you in it. Of course, words will come out eventually. Before I let you go tonight, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just Pace Syndicate. James, my teammate, obviously he had a bit of a bad one tonight, a bit of a mishap going into the pits. Not his fault. It was a bit hectic going into that one green stop pit stop we had. Blip Clothing, BLIP Clothing. Awesome clothes coming out for that soon, so keep your eye out on that. Worm Paints, and just ANZCAR for putting the league on, and you boys for doing the show.
Not a problem. Thank you so much, Michael Scarlett. We'll catch you, I'm sure, in the chase at some stage. Good luck for that, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers, Carl. See you, mate.
Scarlett there, Pace Syndicate team, getting up there in 4th place. So unfortunately, no Tristan Koch tonight, but good job for him nonetheless. So yeah, obviously drop rounds to come for that one. So keep an eye on the ANZCAR Facebook page for all the information on that one to come out. But shouldn't be too much of a change around up the top there at the moment. Most people we sort of know going through. Of course, the chase is going to have some different races in it. We'll be back here at Daytona for the chase as well. So we're going to be at Darlington on August 27th, Richmond September 3rd, Bristol September 10th, Las Vegas September 16th, Talladega. Not Daytona. We're going to Talladega, of course. Sorry, my brain went off there for a second. Talladega September 24th, October 1st for the Roval, Kansas on October 15th, October 22nd Texas, Martinsville 29th, and then finally Phoenix November 5th. That's the final round of the Cup. and the Chase. So obviously a lot to come up with that one. So next round will of course be the first round of the Chase. So looking forward to that one, JP. Should be exciting. Anything you want to say before we head off?
No, look, this was another exciting night of cup racing tonight. But like to thank all of our sponsors: Abruzzi Racewear Australia, Virtual Motorsport Mentors, Hybrid Racing Simulations, iLiveries and Track Cams for Gourmets. As well, maybe give everyone a bit of a heads up on what we've got coming up. Of course, on Monday nights we have the MX5 racing with the Club Day Masters. On Tuesday, we have the V8 Evolution Championship Series. Only 60 points separate the top three in the championship with 2 rounds left to go. Wednesday night, we have the replay of the Split 2 in the NTS V8 Evolution Series. And of course, every Thursday night, the ANZCAR Abruzzi Cup.
Awesome. And with that, we'll be heading off for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that race. It was a bit of a crazy one there at the end, of course. But until next time, this is myself, Carl, and of course, JP, saying goodbye.
Goodbye. We are out.